Reality. It's not only stranger than you suppose, it's stranger than you can suppose. This is Skull Babylon, and you're tuned in to take another trip with us further down the rabbit hole for episode 15 of Paradigm Shift Radio, the new interactive show to assist in the evolution of consciousness. On this episode, we got into the very important but seldom talked about topic of psychedelics and what role they play in this experience we are all in. But before we got there, we kindly welcomed our new co-host Jen onto the show, who shared with us a little bit about her latest adventure at the Bacardi Bliss Spirit Science Weekend Retreat. From there, we had Tanner from the Psychedelic Spirituality Facebook page, as we covered the fact that psychedelics are not something to be toyed around with and should always be approached maturely and intelligently. With a few more interesting points brought up, we moved into our group meditation and then welcomed Anthony onto the show to continue the conversation further. Of course, this is an ongoing conversation, but a very important topic, so be sure to tune into future episodes of PSR, like us on Facebook, tell some friends, learn some new things, have fun, and change the world. Enjoy.
You are an explorer, and you represent our species. And the greatest good you can do is to bring back a new idea, because our world is endangered by the absence of good ideas. Our world is in crisis because of the absence of consciousness.
Our world is in crisis because of the absence of consciousness. That was Terrence McKenna, and this is Skull Babylon, and you are listening to Paradigm Shift Radio. It is another Psychic Saturday here on the internet, and get ready for a big show. As always, Paradigm Shift Radio is about shifting consciousness towards the expansion of new knowledge and understanding of this reality around us and the mysteries that encapsulate it. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Shout out to everyone who is in the live chat. We have about 22 users right off the bat. So again, guys, as things are just starting to get rolling, feel free to invite your friends to the show. This is a community-oriented show. We are going to be looking for people to call in tonight. And just a little bit of to get you guys an idea of the direction that we're heading in tonight, because this is a topic that has always sort of been tiptoed around in terms of Paradigm Shift Radio, and not something that we've fully delved into, but something that's definitely needs to be talked about in a smart and intelligent and respectful way, and that topic is relating to psychedelics. So what we're actually going to be looking for tonight, since this is a community show and this whole idea is to practice conversation, what I'm looking for, once we get through the community news and once we do a couple more things, I'm looking for people to actually call in who have their own story or their own insight about psychedelics. It could be a personal experience or a friend of theirs, quote unquote, a friend of theirs experience, and feel free to bring that into the show in the sense that what Terrence McKenna was saying at the beginning, you know, with these experiences, what we want to do, we want to try and bring something back. In the same way that we go out there and we're like fishermen and we cast a net, and we want to try and come back with certain ideas that otherwise were, you know, sort of out there in the ocean just waiting to be grasped. So if you can do that for us, if you can bring something back and share it with the community tonight on the show, feel free. We will be looking for callers, and again, to call into Paradigm Shift Radio, the simplest way that you can do it is through the Blog Talk Radio address, which you're listening to obviously right now if you're listening to the show live, and click the Skype icon button up at the top where it says call in to speak to the host, launch Skype, presuming you already have Skype installed in the latest version, and then pretty much launch Skype and then press 1 on your keypad, and it will tell me that you're in the queue and you're ready to be brought on. So again, either do it through Skype or call in with an actual phone. That is sort of the secondary way of doing it, but Skype is definitely the recommended way because it's not going to cost you any money. So there you go. But that said, what's new in terms of happening around the world and paradigm shift stuff? Well, it's a full moon, or technically I think it's like 99.6% right now as we sort of look out our windows to observe it. But it is that full moon period. It's a harvest moon. We're definitely we're moving into fall right now. So I mean, you know, I'm out there, I'm skateboarding around, I got my layers on, I'm enjoying it. Like, I love the fall because it's a time to sort of put your gear back on, you know, even in the sense of like video games and MMORPGs and all that. Like, I like fall because it's a chance to sort of sport an extension of your soul, so to speak, externally by putting on gear. And for me, my gear is, you know, just a nice warm hoodie with my military baseball cap and my goggles, which I like to bring out when it's windy. So there you go. But happy full moon to everyone. Happy harvest full moon. We're in the time of fall. Colors are changing. Things are changing, and let's keep it moving that way because that's what we're here to do. We're here to keep things moving. We're here to keep things going forward one step at a time. But other than that, well, technically, it exactly tied in with this whole full moon thing. Some of you guys may remember last full moon we did the Once in a Full Blue Moon video and picture project. We're still doing that again as we get into the habit of doing something every full moon. So if you're interested in this project, go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/full moon. Go to the event page from there, and what you'll see a bunch of people from all across the globe contributing their own images of the moon as well as videos of their thoughts. It could be relating to the moon or anything else, and they're sharing them with the community through the Facebook event page. So that's something that anybody can get involved with, and technically, like I said, the full moon is still something that we're in right now. So if you haven't made or taken any photos or images yet, you can still do that tomorrow night, and feel free to submit it, and feel free to continue doing that by the time we get to the next full moon. Again, it's just a little community thing, something that's fun for everyone. So again, check the show notes or go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/full moon, and if you haven't been to Paradigm Shift Central yet before, also check that out too, because that's like our main website, and that's got the community directory for all the other Paradigm Shift communities. And since we do have new listeners every single show, Paradigm Shift communities are about encouraging open-mindedness, healthy living, and the evolution of consciousness. So just the same basic stuff that we're going to be saying every show, because we do want more people to be encouraged to help move things forward in their own community. Feel free to start up your own Paradigm Shift community is simply the best way to call it, or you can call it a club or something if you have a school. Schools are something that you can always use to sort of get things started to help set that foundation. Just last week I was helping out at the Fanshawe College, which is the school that Paradigm Shift London originated from back when it was a club. So if you happen to be a student, feel free to set something up similar to the Paradigm Shift groups at your school and then start promoting it to the students. Obviously, if you're reaching out to that demographic, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to school, universities, and colleges who are probably going to be interested in that. And given today's day and age, I bet you there's going to be a lot of people who have had their own psychedelic experiences and are looking for a venue to be able to have conversation about it. And again, not that I myself or Paradigm Shift or you in any way have to promote psychedelics or encourage its use, because that's not what we're about. Regardless of whether or not psychedelics are illegal, talking about them is not. And I think that's the important thing. So that's really what needs to happen. We do need to talk about these experiences. We need to create a context socially for what is happening here. And again, sort of going back to Terence McKenna, what can we bring back from these experiences? So there you have it, guys. That's sort of what we got lined up ahead. So again, if you have had your own experience with psychedelics, your own insights, this is a night where we want to hear it. So feel free to call in through Skype or through Skype using Blog Talk or through your own regular phone. And the phone number is 347-539-5493. So let me just check. All right, guys. I got who I want in the queue. And this is a nice little surprise that I got lined up here, and this is something that I've sort of been looking forward to the past little weeks. As you know, I've been flying solo for the last few shows now, but I mean, that's cool. It's been a pretty awesome learning experience, but again, this show is obviously not just about me sitting here trying to do this by myself. So last time I mentioned that we were looking for, the potential for future co-hosts and stuff like that. And I was contacted by a person in particular, and they said, I've had some experience in the past doing some sort of DJ stuff. I really like what you're doing. I'm totally into this whole consciousness shifting idea. Would you like any help? And I was like, that's awesome. Thank you for, being one of the first people to genuinely volunteer for that. So what we have tonight is my great fortune to be able to introduce who is for tonight our co-host, and that person is Jen. So I'm going to bring Jen on the air within the next couple seconds, presuming she's ready, which I'm pretty sure she is. If you're talking in the chat right now, I believe her name is JP something. She's in there somewhere. But anyways, Jen, give a shout out in the chat. Just be like, hey, this is Jen, and then you guys will know who I'm talking about. So Okay, maybe Jen actually isn't in the chat for some weird reason, but I know she's in my queue. So that said, she's going to be busy talking once I bring her on the air anyways, but regardless, guys, say hi to Jen because I'm going to be bringing her on right about now. Hey, Jen, can you hear me?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think we got things loud here, so.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? No, this is really cool. Like, everyone has to see, like, the little, the feed popping up. I know I didn't exist, or I just existed in a different reality where I didn't exist for a moment. Von Halford, I saw that. Anyway, but that's fantastic though. This is great. I haven't been on air. I did used to DJ on weekends, so I haven't had the pleasure of having this kind of a community for a while. It's wonderful. So.
Mhm. Well, cool, Jen. Thanks for coming on. Sorry, are you in the live chat right now? Like, I was just trying to double check. The live chat?
You know what? For some reason, like, I'm signed in and everything, and I hate myself for admitting that I have a MacBook Pro, so, like, I feel like if I ask a Windows user, they're going to be like,
that's pretty
right? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so I feel like if I'm like, oh, you know, how do I work my computer that's better than yours and will never get a virus? Yeah, right. Want. I'm kidding, right? Anyway.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Do you play World of Warcraft on that Mac, Jen?
I have. I absolutely have. But it does overheat if I'm trying to like dual box or whatever. Yeah, it does tend to overheat. But other than that, it actually does pretty well. But I have a rig that I built for my just like for my room here at home. But I used to carry that thing to LAN parties, and it was huge, and I was like, yeah.
Well, I'm proud to say that I've never actually played WoW.
That's terrible.
No, like seriously, a lot of people know where I'm coming from in this. Like, I'm proud to say that I have not like gotten addicted to that. So, but anyways, Jen, thanks again for doing this and just keep things moving.
Thank you for having me.
I know last weekend or this most recent weekend was a very, very exciting experience for you. Would you like to tell the people a little bit about what happened to you over the last weekend and what you're involved with?
Yes, absolutely. So a little bit of background. I actually had talked to the wonderful host here at Paradigm Shift Radio before I even realized that Bhakti Bliss, was going on in Asheville this past weekend, and didn't realize it was coming up, and then it was supposed to be on last weekend to get to talk and everything, and instead I had never been to a gathering like this before. I'd never been around so many incredible positive people. I'm actually where I live is kind of a small town. I'm kind of course I'm in the States, and we don't have the spiritual network that some other places do, even with the internet and everything. So it was just a wonderful time to get to meet everyone, and every morning look up to yoga and stuff.
Well,
and
sorry, I was just going to backstep a little bit because I think Bhakti Bliss, like that was the name of it, right? Something along those lines. But what that is, I mean, for those who, just to give a little bit of an explanation, Bhakti Bliss was something put on by the Spirit Science team, who, as some of you know, like we're in some ways associated with, and that was an event held over 2 or 3 days at this sort of house, like up in the mountains. So Jordan, who, from Spirit Science, who was on the show not too long ago, he was there, as well as a whole bunch of other people, including Elijah both was there. So a lot of community coming together. I know Phoenix was there as well, again from Spirit Science. So and then Jen, you were fortunate enough to get a chance to spend a few days with these people. So just tell us, like, what did you get out of it? Like, how do you feel now?
It's almost even hard to describe. I've meditated by myself for a long time, but this time I actually got to participate in some of the workshops. One of the ones that Phoenix did was incredible. It was Breath of Fire, which I've tried on my own, and I am always about trying new meditation methods because different ways of meditating make you feel different, and I've always liked to experiment with that a little bit. But the breath of fire, what happens is you have to be able to breathe in and breathe out for the same amount of time, and the object is that you start out slow and you're concentrating on an even exchange of air going in and coming out, so that you're not gasping too much for air, or your lungs aren't slowly filling up with too much air. I think people can only do it for a couple minutes usually or whatever. Well, there was this amazing like Native American drum music, and we sat up on the big concrete pad with like the phases of the moon, and there's a big tent, and Elijah and Jordan and oh gosh, Jenna and Megan and Eliana and all these other beautiful friends that I had just made were there. And so we're doing this big group meditation, and I had like a breakthrough. I started getting this insane vibration in my hands and feet that I've never got before. And I've experienced lots of sensations like during meditation. I've meditated for like 18 hours before. And so there are all kinds of different sensations, but it was like, it honestly felt like the material, like the muscle and the tissue and bones in my hands, it felt like they were turning to plasma. It was ridiculous. It was an amazing meditation. Oh, yeah, and Phoenix is actually, he did a meditation, I think it was the Merkaba meditation workshop in Asheville, North Carolina this afternoon, actually. And I know that he does
cool.
Time to time, but, yeah, he's headed back to Bali here before too long to celebrate the beautiful December 21st, of course, with his family and everything. So that's going to be beautiful for him. But the amazing energy just kept going. It was insane. And you get away from your cell phone, and you don't even care, that you don't have your cell phone. I lost my car keys like 3 times. And
yeah, you're telling me about that.
Yeah.
Their typical luck. But then Thoth materialized them for you, so it wasn't a big deal apparently.
Yeah, he materialized them. He materialized them not once but twice. But he's a very interesting. That was very chivalrous. I mean, if I could materialize stuff like that, I would too. I'm used to.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Really cool. That'd be awesome. You would never be running late for work. I mean, there have to be perks,
Yeah, there's a time and a place to materialize things, and in terms of chivalry, yeah, totally. Like, there's like a girl like jumping over a puddle, I'd like materialize like an extra jacket so I could throw it down for her or something. So
I would materialize a trampoline, one of those little 4-foot ones, and a foam pit, and then you could jump in the air, do a front somersault, and land in the foam pit, and that is how you and I are different. But anyway,
it's pretty complicated. So
yeah. So moving along, the really interesting thing that you were talking about with the experiences with substances and that kind of thing before is that's one of the wonderful things about meditation. You can use meditation each time you meditate. It can be better than the last. It can be the best time you've ever had in your entire life, stronger than any, time you've ever been, wasted or whatever. And it's if you have the means to get to a retreat like they held, and I think they were talking about having another Bhakti Bliss coming up. I think it took 3 months to prepare this one, so I'm already cracking the whip on Jordan. I was like, so the next one's going to be in like a month. What? But if you can get into any breathing workshops, no matter how long you've been meditating, I think it's a great opportunity just to expand, another way to, wasted. It's another way to expand your consciousness, and it's another way to get in touch with your body. It's wonderful.
Yeah, like, one of the things that needs to be said, like, straight off the bat, for those of you who are listening, like, a lot of you already know this, but I mean, maybe for those of you who are still, learning about psychedelics and are curious about psychedelics, you don't need psychedelics to see the psychedelic world.
No.
And that's something that going through I've met a lot of people in my local community, and a lot of them have been elderly people like in their, older than me, in their 60s and 70s and stuff, and they've been through that culture. Like, they went through the 70s and stuff, and that was one thing they'll say to you. Like, they'll be like, oh, we understand where you're coming from, you're young and stuff like that, but like, no, like, the real, like a good metaphor that actually came up in terms of psychedelics actually came up in our paradigm shift like consciousness camp meeting that we have every Friday, and one of the guys there, he was saying that like through psychedelic substances use, what you're sort of getting from that is almost like a movie trailer. So it's really exciting. It really like puts you on the edge of your seat, and it gives you a taste, but it's not the actual movie. And it's not until you like actually get into those genuine states of like deep meditation, deep meditation, or even reaching into like exploring the dream states, because as we'll explain in terms of like dimethyltryptamine, like a lot of people already know this, but like dimethyltryptamine is a chemical released in your brain when you sleep every night. So rather than having to worry about like the red flag of getting stuck at the border, about like possibly being a drug user, just like you can focus on the fact that it's already produced naturally in your body, and then all it takes to get there is like discipline and consistency and willpower and practice. So again, psychedelics, they have their use culturally. They sort of existed throughout like lots and lots of different cultures. They're obviously related to like inspiration and art and opening up to higher consciousness. But at the very base of it all, we as humans are naturally capable of like producing these states like internally within ourselves. So part of the question is, how do we get there? But one of the direct ways and the most efficient and consistent ways is through like meditation practice. So again, like kind of going back to what you were saying, like that's why it's good to have events like Bacardi Bliss, so that we can get into like these natural states of perception without having to do it, like under the radar or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, though, some people, I would definitely see how some people could have the point of view that, maybe a substance is kind of required. They're not necessarily quite comfortable with, something yet. And I am all about like holding off, as long as you can. And I do understand, like, we're creating this experience. So there's definitely something to be said, that you're creating it with just your mind and no other like springboard. There's an interesting thing I heard, like when you're dreaming and you see like people in your dreams, sometimes it might seem like you're absolutely seeing strangers in your dreams, but instead those are all faces that your brain has seen before, and your brain has just filed all those faces, and it's using them when you're having your dreams at night or whatever. And the crazy thing is, like, some people could really rely on a substance to put them in that kind of emotional state so that they could rest or that they could relax. And I understand that. But the thing is, even looking at my friends who are the most stressed out, who've told me for years that, they're not in a meditation, I don't know if you guys also realized, if you look on the YouTube channel for Spirit Science, the least watched video is the one on meditation. I think it's the fourth one, maybe. If you look at it, it has like, where other videos have millions of views, this has like 30 or 40,000 or something like that. And one of my other friends remarked, and they're like, well, look at this only has this many views. And I was like, that has nothing to do with how important meditation is or isn't. I was like, that just shows you the amount of people that ignore meditation.
Yeah.
To start to meditate, meditation is a gateway drug, because as soon as you learn to meditate and as soon as you learn to relax yourself that much and still be able to control it and be mentally aware, like, mentally conscientious of what's going on or whatever, you can control it. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. I think meditation, there are audio links out there that you can check out if you haven't been able to, have a guided meditation that helps you. Mm-hmm. There are really great resources out there. So if you're not meditating, there's no excuse not to be, because anyone can message me, and I would love to send some files or point you in the right direction for just like tones or whatever. Oh, we were playing the crystal bowls and the singing this weekend, and that kind of thing. It takes you to a whole new level, and that's the only way to explain it. So I think this is a great community, especially if we are going to be encouraging things, like spiritual ascension. Having people to teach meditation is just really cool.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll definitely be getting to later in the show. As per usual, we'll be doing our regular group meditation. So that's totally what we need. We need that habit. We need that consistency of getting into the pattern of doing meditation. Because I think what you said about the video having the lowest amount of views is really interesting. But at the same time, it's also no surprise. Like, I've noticed that for a while. Like, there's this sort of like thinning of the ratio that occurs when you get people who are like, sort of interested in this consciousness shifting topics, and then you get like a little bit less people who are really interested, and then below that it's like more people who are actually serious about committing to the practical work involved. So I mean, it's one thing to sort of like walk the walk, but it's one thing to talk, but it's another thing to literally like walk the walk in terms of doing this meditation stuff. Because again, it's not just going to happen unless you're and this is actually a story that happened to my buddy. My buddy had like a pretty much an induced DMT experience / near-death experience because he got like hit by a truck, and he was okay. Like his foot kind of got messed up, nothing broken or whatever. But then I was talking to him afterward, and I was like, "Yo, man, like what happened to you? Like what you're explaining to me, like that's your brain was definitely releasing some extra chemicals there, like adrenaline and stuff included, but what you saw, like that was a very psychedelic and very, life-changing experience." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." So he's like still sitting with it, right? So what we're telling you here is don't get hit by trucks. Like, please, if you're trying to get high, like please don't get hit by trucks. Like, stay safe, stay on your couch or wherever you need to be, and like work on your meditation, because that's something that in the long run, and it's not just about the trip, right? Like, it's actually about like developing the focus within your mind so you can like do things more efficiently within this reality for like the purpose of yourself and other people. So,
and another wonderful thing is if anyone who's listening right now is in the groove of creating their own reality, like, I guess the way that it's kind of like worked for me personally over the past, few years, I started out, by attracting things to myself, that I kind of knew I would or whatever, and attracting bigger things. And now it's like I can attract stuff faster and that kind of thing. If you want, you can attract such a reality by meditating. There's a really interesting, actually, like we could even have like a subform on this, an interesting movement with like telekinesis, magnetokinesis, cryokinesis, pyrokinesis, like, and they actually like show you how to do the key balls or chi balls or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
But they're just awesome websites for like to develop your superpowers, and like how to work with your energy fields. And I've actually been doing some super cool stuff with that myself lately. And the fun thing is, like, I'll choose to meditate 5 or 6 times a day, and one of those times, like I do entirely different meditations each time for different lengths of time. And one of those meditations is definitely one where like I work on the energy ball and then make it as big as I can, and then see if I can get my arms stretched as far apart as, I can get them. So 5.5 feet, and still feel the ball or whatever. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like that's, becoming more aware of the subtle energies that are around us. And sort of fishtailing back into the topic of psychedelics, I think that's something that, again, we're saying, like, meditation, work on meditation, yes, but do psychedelics serve a purpose? Yes, as well, because in a lot of ways, we go through this reality and we're so stuck in this illusion around us, and a lot of us have this idea of, like, there has to be more, right? Well, psychedelics is one way of experiencing that firsthand for yourself, that there is more. Like, there's more, there's no such thing as empty space. Like, more people are starting to become aware of this, and there is such thing as, like, I almost refer to it as like the code of the matrix that is like underneath everything. And what it is like sacred geometry and light unfolding infinitely upon itself. And when you do psychedelics, like a lot of people, I mean, society more so sort of puts this impression of referring to them as like hallucinogens and hallucinations. So they, as a society, you get this idea of like, oh, when you do mushrooms, your brain's bleeding, and then you're just like seeing things that aren't really there. Not to say, well, first of all, it's not true about the brain bleeding thing, but what's more true is to look at it as our vision to begin with already has all these filters on it, and through the use of psychedelics and through the use of like natural deeper states of meditation and stuff, like what's actually happening is that we're like peeling back these filters. So what we're seeing on psychedelics is actually like more real, quote unquote, than sort of like what we're seeing in our normal waking state. Now again, like that's that maybe that's just my opinion, but to me that's how I sort of make sense of it, and that's why I see the use of psychedelics. Like I understand like why they are useful, because they open you up to this idea that like you are part of this universal matrix grid, and you are like infinite consciousness, and a lot of people, they'll do mushrooms and they'll be like, oh yeah, I just want to like hang out in the forest all day and like look at leaves and make friends with plants and stuff like that. Like that's not a coincidence. Like that's actually you reconnecting, like moving closer to that like center of source, so to speak. So
one amazingly interesting thing is I actually read an article, I think it was like a week ago, that a friend had posted, and it was talking about the like shamanic or shamanic, I don't know, however you pronounce it, tomato, the shamanic path, and how it is riddled with misconceptions about mental illness. And what happens is it's like, seriously, there will be a person who is on, shamanic, they'll be on their path, and they'll be experiencing these things. And the thing is, since this is their reality, and it's no one else's, like it's schizophrenia, and that's really scary. Like that's the thing. All the other parts of this path to human consciousness seem so easy. I mean, come on, like no mantras, like I am enough. Love everybody, treat others as you would want. I mean, you stylize your mantras to fit your life. But the thing is, everyone will get to a point where it takes like an extra bit of faith. And the thing is, the universe will start to give you like your other individual gifts, as far as, the upper chakras are opening. You're going to have other connections. You're going to have other abilities. You're going to have other powers. That's really, really cool. What's kind of annoying lately is that, like, I'm really empathic, and it's like bordering more on psychic. So it's
right.
Like I'm filtering new information, and it's kind of weird. Making new friends is hard right now, but after leaving Asheville it is. But anyway, so they were just talking about how, there are these young people going through these amazing spiritual evolutions, and instead of celebrating that and giving them the support that they absolutely need, people are calling it like a mental illness. And this is another fascinating thing too. My sister has blessed me with a wonderful 6-year-old nephew who is autistic. And if your family is like mine, then you knew nothing about autism, or you still know nothing about autism until, it happens to your family. I was shocked to hear the number of children who are being born with things like autism now who weren't born with it before. And also it's affecting little boys more. And so my nephew is 6 now. He was diagnosed when he was 2. So 4 years ago, it was really like speaking as like an epidemic or whatever. And of course, how, like, if you look back at some of the documentaries on the sanitariums and that kind of thing, how patients were treated from like a psychologist standpoint or whatever. From a humane aspect, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, though, they process information differently. Autistic children do. I love to watch my nephew play. I love the way He perceives things, when we're hanging out. He's wonderful, and he's the most loving little boy. But the thing is, there's a TED Talk even, I think, speaking about how autism is, and those kind of, disorders, disease, whatever you want to call them, that is actually the next step into where the human is actually evolving to. We are going to be able to process as sensitively as autistic children can. An example, that's to explain, what my nephew goes through is, like at Christmas or, any holiday where they, play the holiday music in the stores. You might be at a mall and you'll walk into one store and you won't really hear the music, or someone had just said if only we could find a way to tune our brains into the type of creativity that autistic people do, absolutely. But some stores will have the music turned lower, some, you won't even be able to hear it. We would be going into the next store to shop, and my nephew would put his little hammies up to his ears because that music was so loud, and he was just so much more sensitive to the frequencies. He was more sensitive to that, and it really is kind of abrasive. And if you tune into your chakras, I definitely pay attention to what's going on with my nephew around with my chakras, and when he would react to something like that, I could feel, in my body where it kind of created an imbalance as well. It's really fascinating stuff. But I think the humans evolved 29 full times or something like that. And I think that this isn't another evolution or another evolutionary path.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Definitely, I've always, even in terms of schizophrenia and stuff, there's definitely more to it than what our culture is just sort of trying to label it as. Labels sort of only get us so far. But that said, I do just sort of want to segue back into the topic of psychedelics. I think what you said about autistic people, that's really important. That's something that we have to keep in mind, and maybe something that we'll sort of go back to as we get more into the discussion just in terms of Paradigm Shift Radio stuff. But for now, since I do have some people who are patiently waiting, I'd like to bring on another person to talk with us here on air, and that person is, presuming he is ready, which I believe he is, yeah, so he seems like he's ready. That person is Tanner, and Tanner is from a Facebook page called Psychedelic Spirituality, which I will post a link for in the chat as we're doing this. But basically, Tanner, he's going to come on the air, and he's just going to, among other things, he's going to talk about some of the safety that needs to sort of be keeping in mind, that we need to be keeping in mind when it comes to things such as psychedelics. So I'm going to bring Tanner on, and then he's going to introduce himself and say a little bit more. So Tanner, if you're ready, I'm going to try bringing you on. Hello, is this Tanner?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool.
You're good? Cool.
How's it going, guys?
Thanks for being on the show, man. First of all, just where are you calling from? And then, just introduce yourself. Explain what the psychedelic spirituality is about.
Well, I'm calling from Texas. So, like Brennan said, I'm representing psychedelic spirituality. We basically try to focus on education, for the most part, about psychedelics and the potential behind them. Of course, Brendan's already brought up a lot of the same points that I wanted to touch upon a little bit. We really like to offer harm reduction and some insight into the capabilities of psychedelics and what they can offer people. But on the same token, still remind people that, this is serious business. A lot of places, of course, it's illegal. And so, we don't necessarily endorse use so much as we just try and provide a resource for people to offer, and share their stories, and share their input, and still provide a safe place to have an open discussion.
Because, in terms of safety, one of the things that actually came up just recently, and some people might have seen this, there was a young man who actually died during an ayahuasca ceremony in Peru, and this actually sort of showed up on the news and stuff. So, Tanner, did you hear about that?
Absolutely. This particular retreat that this happened at is very well known, so they're getting a lot of potentially negative attention. So I think, in my personal opinion, that, we're going to hear a lot more about ayahuasca here very soon. I don't really know exactly what happened in that situation. I know that the family was trying to raise money to get I believe he was 18 or somewhere between 18 and 20 years old. So he's a young guy. My guess, without really knowing too much about what happened, is he might have been on some kind of other, SSRIs or some kind of psychotropic drugs, antidepressants or something. And that can really cause some problems, specifically with ayahuasca, because of certain MAOIs that are used in the brew. So that's my guess, but they really don't know exactly what happened yet.
Excuse me.
So,
but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that really just kind of sheds light on the fact that this isn't really for people to just kind of take lightheartedly. An ayahuasca brew is very, very serious, intense, sometimes overwhelming experience for people. And so for a lot of people who are enthusiastic about the ideas of, potentially opening up this side of themselves, need to understand that, it can be extremely powerful, extremely overwhelming, and it takes a lot of preparation. Fasting is involved, all kinds of stuff. So it's not something that, if somebody hands you a cup and says, hey, man, here's ayahuasca, go ahead and drink up. There's a lot of preparation that goes into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's, in terms of psychedelics, that's something that I think culture sort of just says, it's just a drug, and again, it sort of tries to put this label on it and stuff. But I mean, everything's sort of here for a reason, in the same sense that even when you look at cannabis, is it a coincidence that there's cannabinoid receptors within our brain, sort of thing, that's something that I've always been interested in, is that there seems to be a conscious intent in this reality for things such as entheogens, such as the mushrooms and stuff, to exist in the first place. They're there to be integrated with our consciousness. Is this something just sort of looking back on the history, what role do you think psychedelics have played?
Well, I would have to absolutely agree. I mean, there are receptor sites, and that are specific to a lot of these chemicals in the brain. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. So I definitely feel like it's worth exploring. I mean, and everybody's going to react to these kinds of things differently. Set and setting is something that's really important when you consider experimenting with psychedelics. But, there's definitely, a realm that your body has potential of tapping into. And, we've talked about beyond psychedelics through meditation and sensory deprivation tanks. And there's a lot of ways to get there, but I believe entheogenic substances is definitely probably one of the easiest, and your body is definitely sensitive to these things for sure.
Yeah. Jen, do you have something to add on to this?
Actually, what I was... excuse me. What I was going to mention was with the ayahuasca, it was just so funny that, you brought that up, because my mom, I told her, I was like, oh, there's this retreat in Asheville. And she looked up online, spiritual retreat. And, of course, for a news story, that came up. And okay, so you're not supposed to ask a lady her age, but I'm 27. But my parents they're like, oh, if you're going to be traveling out of state, are you okay? And I'm a girl, so apparently, I have to be really careful. But Mom was convinced that I was going to an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was like, I wish, that would be fantastic. That would be amazing. And it was funny because she was like, I'm afraid you're going to go there and, and something's going to happen. And that's not funny, Toby. Something's going to happen. And it was funny, but at the same time, it's kind of sad, because I just see that our society views the rite of passage of that kind of thing, especially for younger people, they view it differently. And to my understanding, the worst part wasn't that the young boy died. And to be completely honest, from my spiritual perspective, I truly believe that we don't move on until 27. we don't move on until we're ready to. So, like, I know that sometimes, we have questions about, death and how it happened and why it happened and who it happened to. We've all lost someone. But at the same time, I think that this might have just been on this boy's path. Like, he had an incredible spiritual thing, and he decided to go ahead and ascend to the next plane of, existence. And of course, like, if there's no spirit nearby to take over the contract of the body or whatever, it's done. And I think, like, our society, though, we love to keep people old way past their expiration date, right? We, in healthcare, well, and I don't know how many people are from the States here, but here we love to keep people alive into the 200s and 300s, and we don't care about their quality of life, we care about the quantity of life, And to be honest, I think that's terrible. Like, there's a Nick Swardson joke, and he talks about his grandma, and he's like, I heard your grandma died. What happened? He's like, dude, she flipped her vet. Like, that's who I want to be. Like, I don't want to live to be 90 on a tube a vein because I can't even put socks on my feet. So I think that if our country actually valued, like, we don't give people the dignity to die. We don't give people the right to die. Go and see the Javier Bardem movie, La Mer, it's The Sea Inside. It's an amazing movie. It's about, the right to die. But we don't give people those kind of basic rights. We're so busy trying to ensure people's rights to life. We're not ensuring rights to death.
Excuse me.
For this boy, this seriously could have been his time to ascend. And it's not a normal, like, and I know that there are tons of parents who would call in and probably be furious, that I would imagine their, child should be allowed to be put in a dangerous situation like that. But at the same time, I mean, I've been around young people, exiting this planet of existence. I've been around people giving themselves Darwin Awards. I've been around, the babies and stuff. And the thing is, I think the only consistency is that it's inconsistent, regardless. Like, if it's your time, it's your time. And it's sad that it happened like this. And I feel bad for the shaman who made a
it wasn't his fault. So
I feel bad for the shaman because I feel like it wasn't his fault. It does happen, and I just think that there are so many rules that are imposed on society. Like someone said, know your before your dose. The only thing that's
Tanner who we're talking to.
People shouldn't fear death, but like basically the shaman's his whole life is going to change, and I think that we need to pick up so much more movement, and I think we are, which is fantastic. Like being around such a group of people this weekend. Like, I didn't get to the retreat till late and that kind of thing, and I was like, how am I going to file in, But I thought that, I drove 400 miles alone to go to the retreat, and I figured I might come home with a couple of friends, but I left a whole new family behind is what happened. And whenever you realize that other people are picking up that mentality, you see that we're creating, the mental movement, the spiritual movement of it all. And I think we'll start to view things like an ayahuasca ceremony, like the passage of young people, or the rite of passage, of them really growing up. That's
an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Like this idea that, could you imagine if there was like a society where it's like, all right, at age 18, you have your ayahuasca experience, and then you go through a ceremony and stuff. Like, that would just be some next level stuff. But if you were to make a culture based around that, that wouldn't be too, that wouldn't be like abnormal if society sort of developed this.
Because if you give someone the deadline, and it's like, well, look, you have until you're 18 to make it through your ascension process, at least once, hopefully, 10 or 20 or 100 times. You have until 18 to make it through your ascension process, and then, your boost hits after that or whatever. Like, the thing is, you would have to foster an environment that supported open throat chakras and meditation and being connected to Mother Earth. You would have to be in a society, and it's just so great because, like, this weekend at Asheville, it was this amazing community, and there were workshops, and it was there was a little gypsy stand. It was great, actually, and everyone ended up getting clothes from there. And you start to look at the economics, and you're like, well, how could this work? How do you change to a resource-based economy? How do you do that to change society, to change, what makes people, especially young people in schools, want to learn? What's going to make them pick the professions that are going to, further them and our society, our culture. There are a lot of big, surrounding questions that younger generations are going to have to answer as far as all that goes. But,
yeah, well, I think sort of going back to what we were saying, what we were originally talking about the ayahuasca and even like the experience of death and stuff. That's something that I'm personally interested in. This idea of DMT is produced in the brain, dimethyltryptamine, when we're born, when we die, and when we dream. Because to me, and Tanner, I'll let you sort of jump off this point. I mean, to me, this sort of alludes to this whole idea that there is this perception of these higher dimensional realities that we're actually very, very familiar with, but we just have our memory of it is totally not there. So when we are brought into this world and when we leave it, the DMT sort of acts as a catalyst for our soul, if you want to call it that, moving, literally shooting out of a cannon through these other dimensional states of perception. And that's something where if you are experiencing ayahuasca or if you are experiencing DMT, though, I mean, and Tanner, I'd like to get your thoughts on this as to the whole idea of smoking DMT, because I mean, there's a lot of extra chemicals and stuff, and obviously that's not the best way to do it. But when you do it, what is it that we are experiencing in that state is the question. Yes, it's awe-inspiring. Yes, it's these colors and shapes that we haven't experienced before. But what is the context that we can create for that? Tanner, if you would like to add something on that.
Well, I would have to say that the experience itself is definitely adulterated. I mean, if you choose to smoke it, or if you're choosing to use ayahuasca for that. There's more chemicals than just the DMT involved. A lot of people will say that the ayahuasca experience, you can't be done without the entire brew and the whole shamanic process completely. And there's definitely a lot more alkaloids involved besides just dimethyltryptamine. Smoking it, however, though, is probably one of the more intense ways to get this substance into your body. As far as what we're experiencing, I would have to say that it's probably very, very personal for every single individual. So what you see and the things, the way you'll perceive it will be a lot different. Some people might find it to be kind of scary. It might be frightening, where you're having to face parts of your personality that you either suppress, memories that have been buried into your subconscious. So it's not exactly the kind of thing that's very predictable in one way that you can say, well, I'm going to go ahead and hit this pipe and I'm going to be, a higher dimensional being automatically. It's something you'll have to integrate into your life afterwards through a variety of processes. But it's definitely, to take your word, a catalyst for, moving on to facing parts of yourself that you've hidden from, your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
But
sorry, go ahead.
It's really kind of one of those things that you really need to know exactly what you are getting. So a lot of people I've come across will say, they'll approach me and say, well, I don't know where to find any DMT. I've looked and I'm just not coming across it. Well, it's probably one of those things that's going to come into your life when it's supposed to. That would be my personal opinion. And of course, extraction of the alkaloids yourself is probably the safest way to do that. I would like to go ahead and mention, of course, that that's extremely illegal. So anybody that's going to attempt that needs to understand that, you could really set yourself up into a situation that you won't be able to easily get out of. But, of course, that's probably the only way that you're going to be able to acquire the substance and know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of red tape surrounding the whole issue of psychedelics, and in particular DMT, which is something that for me, I was just like, well, why is there this red tape? Like, what does the government know that they're like trying to keep away from us in a lot of ways? But I think that's kind of a separate conversation topic in itself. This whole idea that like these police, these people that are making these laws, like they're like an actual necessary part of this reality. Like they're an energy that's sort of trying to hold back the inevitable, and this inevitable is us like over a period of time, like actually generally like remembering that we are a part of like these higher dimensional realms, and when you do things like psychedelics, like again, that's just sort of getting a taste for it, just sort of momentarily, and then as like the substance sort of wears off, the filters sort of come back on, so that we can like re sort of like situate ourselves in this reality with the understanding that there is more to it, and then in a lot of ways, because kind of what you're saying, you'll have your experience, but then you need to let it sit with you and really process what it is, because in most cases you're finding out about deeper parts of yourself, like these parts that we've kept hidden from ourselves, especially with things like ayahuasca. But I just find it really encouraging and empowering, the idea that psychedelics can affirm for some people that, like, yes, there is more to this reality. All right, what do we do next about it? And this whole idea that, like, you are connected, kind of what you were saying, in terms of DMT, like, first of all, understand what it is, and second of all, if you're trying to manifest it in your reality, like, be patient. Like, understand that it will show up, like, when the time is right. And that may not be for, like, quite some time, but, like, when the time is right, the time will be right. And because it's not just something that you just want to sort of, like, force. It's not something to be taken nonchalantly. Like, this is, like, this is serious stuff. And Tanner, I think that's where, with what you're doing, is very important, because you're having this ongoing conversation related to psychedelics in a smart and intelligent way that's, not just trying to put, like, a stigma on it. So thanks Tanner for doing that. I really do appreciate you doing that. And just before we get into our meditation, sort of any sort of points that you would like to wrap up on, like, what would you like people to keep in their minds in terms of psychedelics?
Well, I definitely think that it's no secret to anyone here that, the dam's fixing to break. There's a lot of topics being brought up tonight by Jen and you and myself that, it's no secret. We know a lot of, the things that psychedelics can teach us already. We're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants here with people like Timothy Leary and, Sasha Shulgin. I mean, these people have kind of paved the way for us to go ahead and take the next step, So there's definitely something going on. We can all feel it. Part of this generation, most of this generation really knows that we're going to have to do things differently. And psychedelics is definitely probably one of the easiest ways that you can experiment with, learning more about yourself and applying yourself into this new reality that we're all creating. However, we want to be smart. We want to be mature about this, and there's a whole mentality of, getting fucked up or taking drugs and hallucinating, and obviously we've talked about that tonight. There's more to it than that, and I really like the way that you kind of framed it, because that's what most of the scientific evidence is showing, is that we've kind of just pulled away the filters and looked at it for what it really is. We're not just, hallucinating here. We're seeing the world through different eyes. So, of course, I don't want to necessarily endorse anyone just take anything that comes out their way, but just fully be prepared, be educated, take the steps, do the research, do your homework, and know exactly what you're getting yourself into. This way you can integrate it into your life and be a productive member of our new society.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a tool. Like anything else, it's a tool, and use it in moderation. Do not abuse it. It is a gift. It is something there to be respected. So if you're doing the psychedelics, if you're interested in the psychedelics, approach it with respect, and the universe will show the respect back. So again, guys, this is about being mature when it comes to this conversation topic, and I'm happy to continue the topic, and I'm sure it will be brought up again. So we'll keep talking about it as we do our meditation, our group meditation, which we're going to do in a couple minutes. So Tanner, before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to sort of add in terms of what we should go into this meditation as an intention or any sort of idea?
Well, I guess I could add that, these kinds of things aren't really, necessarily something that you're going to have to seek out. They will present themselves to you in a way that's, naturally part of your path. So I would say focus on that rather than going out and seeking these things out. Allow them to come to you when you're ready. So open yourself up to it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Let's work with that. So we'll go into the meditation with the idea of understanding that the universe will bring things to us when we are ready. But yes, we are allowed to ask for things, but we must have patience in doing so and understand that there's a time and a place for everything. So, Tanner, the time has been great having you on the show, so thanks again, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again in the future. And
absolutely.
Again, check out Tanner's Facebook group / page at Psychedelics Spirituality. So there is a link for that in the live chat, and it will be in the show notes as well as if you're listening to this after the air date. So check that out. There's some really consistent posts there and some good information by Tanner himself. So Tanner, again, thanks for being on the show, and we'll talk to you in the future, man.
Oh, definitely. Thanks for having me. I'd like to say that I know that Adrian, the founder of Psychedelic Spirituality, really would have loved to have been here. He's in Poland, so he's asleep right now, but we'll try and get him on the next time.
Awesome, man. Another time. All right. Take care, dude.
Thanks.
See you. Bye. All right, so there we go. That was Tanner from Psychedelic Spirituality. And Jen, what do you think? Are we ready to do our meditation?
I do think we are, actually.
Sorry, that was loud, or at least that was for me. Might have been loud for everyone else, but sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I do think we're ready to do that. That was wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, that hurt a couple people's ears. I know. All right, but okay. So for this meditation, Jen, is there anything that you would like to add to the meditation in terms of ideas or intentions?
Yes.
Okay.
Every day, I think that in the morning, some people don't have time to lay down and to meditate and, to dedicate this kind of time to it. And the more you do it, the more you'll want to dedicate more time to it and stuff. But start off every day with 3 mantras when you look in the mirror. And the thing is, you can change them every week or you can change them every month. Yes, and I see someone just put Om. Yes, I just Om'd with people for the first time. There was a kirtan circle, and I really need to just write a blog about this weekend. But just start putting those vibrations through your body, and that's just to get the Merkaba kind of started.
Yep.
Absolutely, but that's just it, and start carrying that vibration, and then keep surrounding yourself with other people who carry that same vibration and can bring it out in you, and you can do the same in them, and that's what's wonderful. So
cool. Okay, so I think we can do that. Let's work in an Om or some sort of mantra. Should we just do Om? Yeah, sure. Let's just do Om, just to keep it simple. We'll take Om with us into our meditation. So, along with the idea of letting things come to us when the time is right, being able to understand that yes, we are allowed to ask for things in this reality, but we must be patient and understand that they will come to us when the time is right. So, all right, guys, get comfortable as we get ready to move into our meditation, and then after the meditation, we'll have another caller on air, and we'll continue our conversation about psychedelics and consciousness. So as everybody's getting nice and comfortable, and Jen, is there anything else you want to say? I was just going to actually mute your mic as we get ready to move into the meditation. So.
No, actually, if anyone wants to add me on Facebook, I have crazy conversations all the time. I barely sleep. I don't know how I do it. But if anyone has any thing that they want to talk about, anything crazy they'd like to talk about, or if they would just like a random useless fact of the day, they can hit me up and I'll tell them something crazy that they never knew.
Okay. Do you got a quick link for that?
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and...
Okay, well, that link will be in the show notes as well if anybody would like to add Jen on Facebook and you're listening to this on YouTube. And again, guys, once the YouTube comes out for this, be sure to either listen to it again or just post it on your wall so that more people will be able to see it. So add Jen because she's always looking to make new friends.
Yeah.
And with that said, Jen, I'm going to mute your mic.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the actual address for your Facebook, just so I can say it on air?
It is facebook.com/Jen Grace Pratt.
Okay.
And 2 T's, yes.
And Gray with an E or an A?
Grace. Like G-race. Or Ger-ace. Or Gray. Yeah.
All right, one of those. Anyways, the link will be in the show notes. So.
Yes.
Okay, Jen, I'm gonna mute your mic, and then we're just gonna move into this meditation, and we'll be actually, okay, Jen, sorry, I'm gonna keep you on air because we're gonna go in with an Om, and then we're gonna mute both of our mics once we get into the Om, and then everyone just keep Oming through the audio track that we'll have playing as well. So you won't hear us Oming, but we will be Oming, and you will be Oming on your end as well, and then we'll come back out of it. So. Okay, so everybody just sort of get comfortable. If you need, just get a drink of water. All right. And again, just relax, whatever's comfortable for you. Just close your eyes and bring your focus onto your breath. So gently inhale for 3 seconds and exhale for 3 seconds. Find a rhythm that works for you, allowing yourself to become calm, and potentially opening up your mind to new spaces, to new awareness of yourself and this reality around us. So let us begin by doing an Om together, and then we'll be muted and we'll continue the meditation. So Jen, let us begin our Om in 3 seconds. So 1 deep breath, and then we'll Om. You ready?
Yes, nervous.
Okay. All right. Nothing to be scared of. So.
Tone deaf.
Don't worry. All right. Deep breath, and then Om. I didn't hear you on that one.
Are you serious?
Okay, fine. Don't worry about it, Jen.
That's me. I did. I owned.
Did you? I didn't hear it.
I did.
Awesome. Okay. Well,
I totally heard her.
Okay.
Everyone's that thing.
Shh. Quiet. We're meditating. Okay. All right. Okay. Back to the Oming. So another deep breath, 1 more Om, and then we'll start the audio, and then everyone keep Oming.
I can't stop giggling now.
Okay. It's Oming time. Let's do it.
Okay. I'll listen to you Om.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, I'm going to mute you, Jen. Okay.
Yeah.
You're muted. Okay. We'll bring you back. Okay, guys, so one more deep breath, and feel free to Om with me, and then we'll bring up the audio, and then we'll keep going with the meditation. So, deep breath. Continue breathing. Continue your Om. one more deep breath. And let us conclude with another Om as we connect to everything that there is. Deep breath. So let that sit with you for a bit. Good job, guys. Another successful group meditation. Don't think we lost anyone on that one. So welcome back. And oftentimes when we do when we're doing the mantras, which is the Oms and the Ahs and the Pade, Ma, Same, etc. Part of the reason why we're doing that, and in the same way, we were talking about entheogens and psychedelics, and this idea that they're tools. Well, the mantras, they too are tools for us to use in order to sort of attune our vibration, so to speak. Like literally, you might just be sitting there making a funny noise, but in terms of sound, in terms of vibration, there's more happening. So look more into mantras if that's something you're interested in, but more importantly, feel free to actually use them, because one of the best ways you'll find out as to like why they're so important is to actually use them, and it's something that can be brought into your meditation, and something that, like anything else, if you're bringing it into your meditation, stay consistent with it. Don't just do it once, try it, and say it didn't work. Keep doing it, and it'll definitely have an effect. Like there's no way it won't have an effect. So, all right, guys. So I'm gonna bring Jen back on the air, and then we're gonna get into one more caller. Even though we only have about 13 minutes left on the show, we're gonna get into one more caller, and then we're gonna wrap up the show with the last couple minutes left. So, Jen, I'm gonna bring you on the air, and Jen, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. So this is going to be the best 13 minutes of y'all's lives. Something really interesting that I was just, and can everyone hear me right now, by the way? Am I good?
It's okay. So.
Okay, fantastic. One of the cool things that you can do is just put on Pandora, and you can look up kirtan music on Pandora. I had never had kirtan or anything like that, and they do like the singing bowls and the oming and the chants and stuff, and it's wonderful. So you can put Pandora on, and if you're cheap like me, it's great because it's free, so it's wonderful.
Is that Pandora's like something they can YouTube? Is that what you're saying? Or?
You just go to Pandora.com, and you can
so Pandora.com.
Yeah, Pandora.com, and you can create an entire radio station. And like I have this year, something really funny. The way that I've kind of progressed is the beginning of this year, all I listened to was classical music on Pandora because I wanted to further my like knowledge of it and just enjoying it. And it turned out to be wonderful and peaceful to meditate to. And then I kind of got more into EDM again. And you can like focus on like the binaural beats or whatever it is. And so if you're going to meditate, you can kind of trance out to, EDM.
Anything.
Trance or whatever. Oh, yeah. So it's wonderful. So
cool. Okay, so our caller that we're bringing on is a buddy of mine who I haven't met in person yet. I've talked to him a few times, and he goes by the name Boundless Mind. So, presuming you're ready to be brought on the air, Boundless Mind, I'm going to bring you on the air. We're going to continue our conversation about psychedelics and consciousness. So, here we go. All right, Boundless Mind, are you there? Can you hear me?
We on the air?
Hello, yes, we are.
All right, hello. Great. Brendan, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for making yourself available. And again, who are you and where are you calling from? And then tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Anthony, and I'm actually calling from Brampton, Ontario, Canada. And I have a little bit of experience with psychedelics. I've been working with ayahuasca for about 2 years now, and also working with mushrooms as well. So, been investing in a spiritual search for about 3 years, studying a lot of different models of consciousness, so on and so forth. And I think this is really great that you guys are having this radio show and that the shift is occurring.
For sure, man, for sure. So what role do you see psychedelics as playing? Like, what are psychedelics to you?
Well, yeah, it's really funny because I think that something that often gets left out of this conversation is, what types of altered states are we accessing? Where do they fall in terms of the psychic level or the subtle level or the causal level? Are they just psycho-emotional phenomenon that's occurring? And there's a lot of mystics, calling upon the great esoteric religions, whether it be esoteric Christianity or Buddhism or Sufism, Hinduism, so on and so forth, that points to an anchored awareness that is actually infinitely present and is essentially oneself, and that's something that we can all identify with. It's changeless. And the interesting thing about psychedelics is that it is part of this relative realm. We're actually accessing impermanent phenomenon. And so, according to the mystics, anything that does have a start in time and an end in time, much like psychedelics do, is not the ultimate realization. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not merit in psychedelics. In fact, there's a huge amount of merit in psychedelics. Obviously, we wouldn't be having this conversation if that wasn't the case. But I think we need to understand, right? I think we can navigate this terrain more gracefully if we understand where that falls. And for me, in my personal experience with ayahuasca, I can actually attest to a lot of psycho-emotional symbolism coming up for me. And, I think that in terms of the symbolism that comes to a person when they're on psychedelics, someone can take them literally, much like you can take biblical meanings literally, and then you can, interpret them as fact, or you can actually look at them through a lens and see, this is actually impermanent phenomenon arising. How can I interpret this and take this into myself rather than identifying with it? Because it does have a start and end in time, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing in terms of, we had the audio clip from Terence McKenna at the beginning of the show. One thing that's always interested me about psychedelics, and specifically like ayahuasca and the DMT experiences, are these reports that you get people encountering other entities, if you want to call them that, like within these states.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's totally just like fascinating to me. Like this idea that like, just as an idea, maybe there are like these other entities that are like sort of always there, they're always around us, but we're just sort of like not in a state where we can visually perceive them. But when we're on these psychedelics, like we're more in sort of a neutral ground where they too can sort of reach us halfway, and in some ways like actually have some sort of conversation with them. You get Terence McKenna talking about like the self-transforming machine elves. Like maybe Anthony, is that something like, have you had much experience with that, like contacting and communicating with other entities, so to speak, in these altered states?
You know what? No, I can't honestly say I have. I don't have any experience with DMT in terms of the actual concentrated extract, but I have worked with ayahuasca. I can't really say too much about that. What I can say though is, if I were to take, say for instance, are you familiar with Ken Wilber by any chance?
No, I'm not actually.
Oh, amazing author. He actually outlines a general model of consciousness which essentially transcends from the physical self to the emotional self to one's own self-concept to the role self, and then eventually you get to these higher states of consciousness, which are actually vision logic, psychic states of consciousness, subtle states of consciousness, and then you have causal, which is the non-dual awareness, the final state of consciousness. Essentially, I think what we're accessing when we're on psychedelics is we're accessing the psychic realm. So that's probably 2 steps away from the ultimate realization of, oneness, Godhead, infinite consciousness, what have you. And I think that perhaps, this is just my speculation on what's happening, but perhaps what's occurring is we're actually entering, like you said, a field of consciousness where we actually intersect with other beings. So it actually transcends the body, and we're actually able to communicate with other entities, other energies, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a speculation, though, but...
Yeah, totally, man. Like, it's all subjective and stuff, right? Like, we're just doing our best to try and make sense of it using the words that we have. So, Jen, sorry, I just wanted to did you have something to mention or add or anything?
Yeah, actually. He was, talking about, I've seen a lot of kind of chat about people saying, I don't have anything against people who would use DMT, or I don't have, or I could, get the absolute best feeling out of meditation. And I think the thing that everyone needs to realize is that your spiritual journey is one where, you absolutely 1000% create your experience. Like, if you're one of those people that takes marijuana and you absolutely plan insane, awesome adventures, and I think you create your experience. If you work to create your reality, like, people know what I'm talking about. If you decide to go ahead and be a creator god while you're, experiencing one of these, and you create the reality while you're on this, then it's kind of putting that in your hands. At the same time, there is definitely something to be said, not getting into any of this too quickly. Like, you actually have to have the best relationship you have to have is the one with yourself. And I think that it's very interesting that people are having this conversation here now. I talked to an old hippie a while back, and he was talking about life, and he had talked a little bit about Terence McKenna and stuff too, and I think he basically like stuck to pot kind of. I know I love old hippies too. That sounds like a great T-shirt. But he basically just showed me this other aspect of there are other generations, our parents or grandparents. I have a niece that's turning 20. And, I'm, of course, so I'm just old enough, so I kind of look at her almost like a daughter, and I want to make sure, that she evolves, spiritually as far as, her time goes or whatever too. But I just think that it's wonderful that we have the kind of generations being represented here. I think that's wonderful. And, someday, maybe we will be able to speak to our parents about, have a one-on-one dialogue with them. Isn't that so funny? Like, they're the ones who are supposed to be able to have the conversation about, drugs or whatever with us, and we're trying to enlighten them. So this is just a great place to start that dialogue, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, we have to practice having these conversations so that we can have them with people who don't really know what we're talking about. But I mean, in terms of psychedelics, it's really sort of impossible to tell and explain a person what a psychedelic experience is, if they haven't had one for themselves. The only way they can truly know is to have that experience for themselves. So, Anthony, before we sort of wrap up, just sort of any last message that you want to leave with the people before we move into the closing notes of the show.
No. Be well, blessings, and be safe with your psychedelic adventures.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I want to do. So, safety first, kids. So, be smart about what you're doing in terms of making those important decisions in your life. So, Anthony, I'm going to let you go. I know it's short and sweet, but we can have you on again sometime. So, thanks again. And
great.
See you around. All right.
See you around, man. Thanks.
Cool. All right, guys. So, there you go. We're just ready to wrap up this episode of Paradigm Shift here. And before we just sort of, before we say our goodbyes, I just wanted to mention that Paradigm Shift is something that, is a community thing. It's very oriented, and we're also starting a campaign to go. So if you check the show notes for this, or go to indigo.com/indigo.com/Babylon, you'll find two campaigns there, and those campaigns are setting up so we can raise funds for button machines, t-shirts, materials, and help share it on YouTube, higher, and I also because I would like to man honest quality of myself to 2 days, 3 days of on assignment to video or edit and piece out of it. So that you want to contribute to either go to the local campaign site or go to paradigmshift.com/donate. Check that out. That would agree to Sensible Space Cast. I can help them out with station hash. And again, I'm not one to ask for money, but any extra stuff is greatly appreciated because we do put our energy into it. We want to keep making stuff for you. So Jen, just before we wrap this up, would you like to really quick, 10, 15 seconds, say your goodbye, say your hello, say your farewell?
Okay, yeah. Well, it was wonderful to get to talk to you all in chat. I've had a great experience, and your mic has been messed up for the past 2 minutes, and we just sent the script that Flip to Skrillex, and we're going to dubstep it, and it's going to be fantastic.
My mic doesn't. So, okay, guys. Sorry, Jen, say your goodbyes, because I think we're actually in off-air mode right now.
Night, sleep tight. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful week.
All right, just if my mic is working better again, guys, if you would like to donate to the Paradigm Shift Radio Fund and the Paradigm Shift Central Fund, go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/donate and feel free to check that out. All your consideration is greatly appreciated. And thanks again for listening, guys. Go to facebook.com/paradigmshiftradio and facebook.com/paradigmshiftcentral. Keep in the loop, keep on listening, keep doing what you're doing, play smart, play safe, and we'll see you guys in the future. So take care, guys, and see you around.